Welcome. Welcome everybody to this MLK event. It is our honor and privilege to be here as we remember Dr. Martin Luther King, his life and legacy as we celebrate his 92nd birthday. Thank you very much for being here. We know that this is a little bit different than we have done in years in the past, but we're so happy that you will be here with us today. I'd like to start out by thanking Meridia Warren for that beautiful musical selection. And once again, thank all of you for joining us virtually as we celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Under normal circumstances, when you joined us in person for our annual celebration, you would have received a program where you could read all about our illustrious history. Unfortunately, we will point you to our website for more detail about the Martin Luther King Jr. Birthday Committee. But here are some of the highlights. The Martin Luther King Jr. Birthday Observance Committee was formed soon after Dr. King's assassination on April 4th of 1968, beginning with the candlelight vigil at the Presbyterian Church of Teaneck. It was led by several community leaders, including Judge Isaac McNatt, Teaneck's first Black deputy mayor, and Dr. Archie L. Lacey. For the last 30 years, Dr. Lacey's widow, Theodora Smiley Lacey, a civil rights activist in her own right who worked with Dr. Martin Luther King during the famed Montgomery bus boycott, has been chair of the expanding Martin Luther King Jr. Committee. While the initial focus was to pay tribute to Dr. King's remarkable life and contributions, efforts were made to not only remember Dr. King's work, but to bring to realization his dream of peace, justice, and equality for all. Through the help of outstanding and skilled community volunteers, the program was enhanced over years to include recognition of outstanding institutions, civic-minded individuals, and achieving high school students who are also engaged in community activities, as you will see in this virtual celebration. And while we regret that we are not face-to-face as we have been the last 52 years, we hope you will feel the same spirit of the annual celebration. This is a time to remember, reflect, and rejoice in the true meaning and the life and work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So would you please join me as we sing the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Till earth and heaven ring with the heart. Hello, I am the Reverend Andre Mall, minister from Central Unitarian Church. We are gathered here in this online space, unfortunately coming together while staying apart. So we're separated by these screens, by geography, by time, and so many of us feel separated from so many divisions that we are experiencing at this time. And I know too that as we gather in this space, we come from a variety of faith traditions, and some of us hold no particular faith tradition at all. So I invite us as we begin today to do a simple act, to take a moment and just put your hand on your heart. And take a moment to just pause and feel your own heartbeat. To feel this simple but precious act that we share with other humans, with other life on this planet. We all hold in ourselves a heart, a seed of love. Reverend Dr. King spoke much of love, a Christian love, an unconditional love, a love that could demand justice. My own Unitarian Universalist faith tradition speaks of a loving God that wishes for salvation and freedom for all. So as we all sit in this moment, our hearts all beating together, transcending time, space, differences, sharing together this act. We call on the spirit of love. Love with the power to change, with the power to heal, with the power to demand justice, and with the power to carry forth and realize our dreams of beloved community. Blessed be, and amen.
And thank you very much for that very meaningful invocation. Now, we'd like to introduce one of our speakers this evening. It is a pleasure and an honor to welcome the Senator from New Jersey, our very own Cory Booker.
I am honored to greet you today on the celebration of Martin Luther King's birthday. I'm honored as a Bergen County boy and as someone who has been the beneficiary of those people who kept the dream alive. I moved to Bergen County when I was just a baby. It was 1969. And it was the activism, like someone on this very committee for this great celebration, Miss Lee Porter, it was activism of her and others that ensured my family be the first Black family to move into Harrington Park, New Jersey. You see, we are all the product of the sacrifices and struggles of those who came before. And clearly, Martin Luther King, leader of a movement, he has helped not just us individually, but our nation become better and stronger and a more perfect representation of our highest ideals. But we have work to do. There are challenges. We still see injustice along racial lines in everything from healthcare to the criminal justice system, from education to even environmental injustice. These injustices should call upon our heroism, like those before, to act. Because as King wrote in his letters from the Birmingham jail, it is not just the perpetuators of injustice, but those who stand by and do nothing who are also implicated. We cannot be bystanders in the cause of our country, for therefore we are complicit and implicated in the challenges we face. All of us, the beneficiaries of struggle and sacrifice and service of those who came before, must now ourselves embody those ideals. We must be forces of a more courageous love and empathy and kindness. That is our roots. That's the very soil in which we have come up. May we now, in our generation, bear fruit for the generations to come. Happy Martin Luther King Day. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Booker. We now turn to our fireside chat with two giants of journalism. Teaneck resident and veteran journalist Randall Pinkston sat down with Pulitzer Prize-winning editorial writer and host of MSNBC's The Sunday Show, Jonathan Capehart.
Thanks, Anthony, and thanks to the Martin Luther King Committee for inviting my participation in this very important annual tribute to Dr. King and his legacy. In the interest of full disclosure, let me acknowledge that I am a longtime fan of the great Jonathan Capehart, who has kindly consented to tear himself away from the fire hose of news that's coming out of our nation's capital and away from the chaos that we all witnessed and that has most clear-thinking Americans quite worried about the state of our nation. So the theme of our chat for the next few minutes is, where do we go from here? But before we look to the future, Jonathan, would you please give us a brief summary, your perspective on the present? How did we get here?
Well, Randall, thank you very much. And it's an honor to be interviewed by the great Randall Pinkston. So thank you very much for your introduction. How did we get here? We got here because on June 16th, 2015, then private citizen Donald Trump came down the escalator, and within 2 minutes of his announcement that he was running for president speech, called Mexicans rapists. And no one took him seriously. No one took his words seriously. They thought it was all a game. He gets to the debate stage and they still all thought it was a game until his poll numbers started going up, until he started winning states, until he won the nomination, and then until, unbelievably, he won the presidency, because no one took him seriously. No one thought that someone like him, who was so base and raw and scratched at this nation's eternal scars when it comes to racism and xenophobia, no one thought someone like that could win the presidency, and then he did. And then to fast forward, what's even more troubling is that despite the negative racist language, despite Charlottesville, despite bungling the response to a global pandemic, he won 10 million more votes than he did in 2016. And so we are here because a president of the United States, instead of running for president and then bringing us all together once he won, he ran just appealing to his base and then governed just appealing to his base, which in this country, as we all know, you have got to, the pains and the traumas of this country, you need a president who either through winks and nods or proactively hold us together. And what he did was the exact opposite. He exploited them to tear us apart.
Let's now look to the future and Dr. King's legacy. Dr. King, as you know, was himself, before his assassination, often the victim of physical violence. He witnessed many horrible, horrific events during his campaign for justice. Based on what you know of Dr. King's philosophy, give us your interpretation of how he might respond to the division that exists today.
Well, I think Dr. King would call on us to look to our better angels, to look to who we are deep down as people, as citizens, but also to be reminded of the fact that our Constitution is something that makes promises. And it makes promises that this country has problems fulfilling, but as history has shown, and especially since the assassination of Dr. King, that the country through fits and starts finds its way to keeping some of those promises. And so I think on the one hand, he would be very troubled by where we are right now. He might be despondent about how far we have fallen back to maybe even before he came on the scene in Montgomery. But what I do think he would find hope in is the fact that President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris won election after 4 really divisive years, won election with the largest vote count of any people running for president in the history of this country. I think he would find hope in the fact that when George Floyd was murdered on that street in Minneapolis under the knee of a Minneapolis police officer, that despite a global pandemic that had us shut inside for fear of catching coronavirus, people decided that that was enough, and they took to the streets to demand justice for George Floyd, to demand justice for Breonna Taylor, to demand justice for Ahmaud Arbery, and all of those Black men and Black women who have lost their lives to overzealous law enforcement or overzealous vigilantes, that he would see hope in the composition of those protests. It wasn't just Black people or people of color taking to the streets. It was America taking to the streets. And so I would like to think that Dr. King would be realistic in seeing just how much more work needs to be done, probably even more work that needs to be done than when he was on the scene. But I think he would look to see what we've been through for the last 7 months, particularly those nationwide protests. He would see that as a hopeful sign that the message that he and the freedom fighters, those named and unnamed from the 50s and the 60s, that their message is carrying through to a new and younger generation who really takes it to heart.
Yeah, speaking of the younger generation, and let's totally acknowledge all of the many people from all races, all backgrounds, not only here in America, but around the world, who paid attention to the extrajudicial killings of unarmed Black men. But for the younger generation, what is your sense of their awareness and connectedness to Dr. King's philosophy as we see them taking to the streets, becoming activists in their day?
Well, I mean, I would hope they know who he is. The civic education, one, is, very rare these days. And even when I was in grade school, Dr. King was at most a subsection in a chapter. And even the characterization of him, depending on which history book you were reading, tended not to be terribly charitable, as the times were. I think this generation deep down feels that what they've seen on video, particularly we've seen video of Ahmaud Arbery being killed. We've seen video of George Floyd being killed. And I think this younger generation feels to its core, intrinsically, how unfair, how wrong and unjust that was. And they come at it from a moral perspective, but then they come at it from a legal perspective. They might not think of it that way, but a legal perspective and a constitutional perspective. According to our Constitution, that should not happen. That isn't fair. that is unjust. And so we're talking about a generation that has grown up doing intruder drills, that has been living in fear of a mass shooter at school, at church, at the movie theater, at the big box store, anywhere. And I think they look at what's happening as something, you know what? We're not going to sit around. We're going to do something about it. The Parkland kids, who I get a lot of inspiration from, who just intrinsically, they went through it in Parkland, a well-to-do suburb there in Florida, but they reached out to the kids in Chicago who have been living with it for years, pulled them in and said, you know, we know you've been dealing with this. Let's work together. I think that's what's so amazing about the time that we're in, and with this generation that's coming up. They don't, the history they need to learn, who the characters are, who the players are, what they did and what they said, but they have so easily, they will learn that they are already walking on a path that was blazed for them. And they will see that they are carrying on in a fantastic tradition. And they give me so much hope. When Parkland happened, they're one of the kids, when they marched to Tallahassee, and the kid said, I'm dedicating my life to gun control. This shouldn't happen again. And he said something that sent chills down my spine and made me tear up in my office at the paper, because then he said, I know it's not going to happen next month or next year or in 5 years, but it will happen in my lifetime. That to me said a couple of things. One, this is a kid who could in an instant get the answer to any question he has about anything. Our time now is about getting things fast, getting it now. Here's a kid who understands that this is a marathon and not a sprint. And so when I heard him say that, I thought, we are in good hands.
You know, that's a very hopeful place for us to end our fireside chat. There were some other questions I wanted to ask, but you know, we are all up against the clock in your business and in the business that I used to be in. So I will leave it there. And thank you very much, Jonathan Capehart, for joining us for the Martin Luther King Day celebration here in Bergen County. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Randall.
Far and wide, make them hear you, make them hear you. How justice was our battle, and how justice was denied, make them hear you, make them hear you. And say to those who blame us for the way we chose to fight, that sometimes there are battles which are more than black or white. And I could not put down my sword when justice was my right. Make them hear you, make them hear you. Go out and tell our story to your daughters and your sons. Make them hear you, make them hear you. And tell them in our struggle we were not the only ones. Make them hear you, make them hear you. Your sword can be your sermon, or the power of the pen. Teach every child to raise his voice, and then, my brothers, then will justice be demanded.
by 10,000,000 righteous men. Make them hear you. When they hear you, I'll be near you
Lee Reed was an organizer and the founder of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Palisades. In addition, she was a valued member of this Martin Luther King Birthday Observance Committee. In her honor and in her memory, for the past over 20 years, we have been giving the Lee Reed Award to an individual or an organization for their community service and for living the ideals of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This year, we are pleased to present the Lee Reed Award to the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, Inc., Bergen, Passaic chapter, whose work through partnership, education, and role modeling inspires and exemplifies the ideals of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Congratulations.
Hello, my name is Paula Madison Reina. I'm the president of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, Bergen Passaic chapter. And on behalf of the entire membership of NCBW 100, it gives me great pleasure to accept this award from the Martin Luther King Birthday Observance Committee. The mission of NCBW is to advocate on behalf of Black women and girls in the areas of health, education, and economic empowerment. We thank the MLK Committee for continuing the work of Dr. King in his fight for social justice as we continue to fight for social justice on behalf of the Black family. Thank you for this award, and thank you again to the MLK Birthday Committee.
Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that.
Law and order exists for the purpose of establishing justice. And when they fail in this purpose, they become the dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress.
History will have to record that the greatest tragedy of this period of social transition was not the strident clamor of the bad people, but the appalling silence of the good people.
There's a light in the darkness, though the night is black as my skin. There's a light burning bright, showing me the way. But I know where I've been. There's a cry in the distance. It's a voice that comes from deep within. It's a cry asking why. I pray the answer's up ahead, 'cause I know where I've been. There's a road we've been traveling, lost so many struggle we have yet to win. And there's pride in my heart, 'cause I know where I'm going. Yes, I do. And I know where I've been. There's a road we must travel. There's a promise we must make. But the riches will be plenty. The risk and the chances that we take. There's a dream in the future. There's a struggle we have yet to win. And that pride in our heart to lift us up to tomorrow. 'Cause just to sit still might be a sin. Oh, I know where I've
And we'd like to thank Gail Smith and the Teaneck Community Chorus for an absolute spectacular performance. They do it every year, and it's so, so special to have them here once again. Now we move to the presentation of the Youth Certificate of Merit Awards. This is a key segment of our program.
Each year, the MLK Birthday Committee invites all Bergen County public and private high schools to select a senior to receive our Youth Certificate of Merit Award. We ask that they base their choice on the following criteria. 1, the student must have been active in both school and community activities, as well as academically outstanding. 2, the student nomination form must be signed by 3 of the following: the principal, vice principal, guidance counselor, teacher, coach, or club sponsor. 22 high schools nominated students this year, and we are delighted to scroll their names and schools. In addition, we are pleased that local officials are here to congratulate them. Since we are virtual this year, the certificates are being mailed to each student at their home. Congratulations to all of the students.
Englewood Mayor Michael Wilds here to wish everybody well and congratulate you on the Certificate of Merit Award based on your academic achievement. What a very special time in your lives to have merited the award, and at the same time, what an upside-down world we live in. I'm reminded by the extraordinary vision of Dr. King to take stock in the sense of excellence that he had and what he envisioned for our generation. Dr. King had visited the city of Englewood, where I have the privilege of being a mayor. We gave a key to the city to Rosa Parks and a lot of other people that followed in his way. But he envisioned that sense of magnanimity, the content of character, and the sense of excellence that citizens, young and old, were to have. I can't think of a more appropriate time for us to remind ourselves of how important it is for us to be diligent. Again, Dr. King said, if you are a street sweeper, sweep the street like Rembrandt or Michelangelo would. Whatever you do, young boys and girls, I would urge you to do it great, do it beautifully, and do it robustly. Make sure that you look over the shoulders of your parents, your family members, and others, your neighbors, and that whatever you choose to do in life, you'll not just help yourself, but you'll help the one next to you. That sense of excellence is what we have in the city of Englewood, and you've inspired us in the county to envision a brighter future for all of us. May God bless you and your families. Congratulations.
My name is Bergen County Executive Jim Tedesco. I just want to congratulate the 2021 Martin Luther King Birthday Committee Merit recipients for their outstanding academic achievement and community service. Thank you for carrying on the work of Dr. King and his dream of achieving a more peaceful and just world. I look forward to celebrating this event in person next year. Thank you.
It makes me a little bit sad that today we are celebrating the Martin Luther King birthday virtually rather than in person. I have spent many years greeting many of you in the auditoriums as we honored the legacy of Martin Luther King. And now we're looking at a group of young people who are being charged to continue their educations and to learn about the legacy of Martin Luther King, because you are our future leaders. On behalf of the state of New Jersey, I am so proud to congratulate each and every one of you for the award you are winning today and for what I know you are going to do in your future. So carry the thoughts of Martin Luther King with you in the future. You have our utmost congratulations and confidence that you're going to help make a new world.
Over half a century has passed since the historic I Have a Dream speech by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. A speech that gave hopeful vision to the millions of Americans seeking to change a society that was unjust. A society that judged individuals not on their merits or contributions, but on the color of their skin. Dr. King understood true and lasting change could only occur through the unity, commitment, and love. It is precisely for this reason that we challenged us to stand in another person's shoes, to see through their eyes, and to understand their pain. For he knew that it was the only way to attain meaningful progress. All of you are here today because you have demonstrated a commitment to the ideas of Dr. King, and you have received your certificates of merit. I commend you on your outstanding academic and community service. I also challenge you to always believe in yourself, to have the courage to continue to do the extraordinary things for your community, and to always stand up for what is just and fair. On behalf of the Bergen County Board of Commissioners, congratulations on your great achievement.
So each year, the MLK Birthday Committee awards several scholarships to Certificate of Merit Award winners who submit an essay. Thank you to the 18 students who did submit essays. We are happy to announce the winners and recipients of this year's scholarship awards. We are grateful for the generosity of our committee members. Al Stosky for donating funds for the May Boyd Stosky Scholarship. For many years in our community, May Boyd Stosky was an exceptionally dedicated anti-racist and social justice activist and leader. She was also a writer and a poet. She believed deeply in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The way May engaged and affected people is still remembered and continues to inspire the many who knew her and loved her. This award and a book of her poetry and prose is given to honor her memory. The May Boyd Stowski Scholarship is presented to Krista Ackerling from Bergen County Academies. Many thanks to St. Anastasia's Roman Catholic Church in Teaneck for making available the funds for the Charles Warren Music Scholarship. Charles Warren is the music director for this program and for many years was the music director for St. Anastasia's. We are pleased to present the Charles Warren Music Scholarship to a student with exceptional musical talent. The Charles Warren Music Scholarship is presented to Jasmine Loling, Teaneck High School. Senior congratulations. The MLK Birthday Scholarship Awards are presented to Moshe Moskowitz of Barnstable Academy, Danielle Mitchell, Tenafly High School, Ellie Schaumberger, Pascack Valley High School, Aya Moshette, Riverdale Regional High. We congratulate all the winners and we are wishing you the best as you enter college this fall. So each year we take time to ask those who attend our program for donations to help us help others and provide funds for the scholarships. We support a number of local organizations such as the Center for Food Action, shelters, women's organizations, prison reform, and other services that reflect the vision of Dr. King. There are 3 ways you can donate. We would like to thank all of you who tuned in. Now it is time for our benediction. Following that, we will all sing, "We Shall Overcome."
I'm the Reverend Joan Conley, rector of St. Mark's Episcopal Church in Teaneck. We as individuals, as communities, as a nation, have weathered great challenges over these last months. We have experienced waves of sorrow, loss, anger, fear, isolation, division, but we have also borne witness to acts of compassion, of creativity, love, hope, and calls for justice and healing. And we have been reminded of the Reverend Dr. King's words, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And we have also been reminded that this holy work of bringing light to drive out darkness, of bringing love to drive out hate, is hard work and cannot be done alone. In our diversity, we are one human family. Just as the human body is one body with many parts, each part beautiful, unique, and with its own role to play, and the health and care for each part is vital to the whole. So go forth into the world in peace. Be of good courage. Hold fast to that which is good. Render to no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted and those who live in fear. Support the weak and those who feel cast out. Help the afflicted. Honor all persons. Love and serve God, source of all life and love, rejoicing in the power of all that is holy, and the blessing of God be upon you and remain with you always. Amen.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome
Thank you to all of you for joining us in our first virtual birthday celebration. And on behalf of the entire Martin Luther King Jr. Birthday Committee, we want to remind you that your support is greatly needed. Again, thank you, and we hope to see you in person next year.